Tyson versus Jake Paul. I can't believe this is real, guys. The audience goes crazy. The wait is finally over. Here we go.
Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. If someone had told you about this matchup a couple of years ago, you would have laughed it off. However, it was just a few years ago that Mike Tyson helped launch Jake's boxing career into the mainstream. On the event where Tyson fought Roy Jones Jr., Jake fought against Nate Robinson. The popularity of Mike's name brought attention to Paul's fight. And now, just a few years later, Jake has fought multiple times in the ring and is ready to face his most intimidating opponent yet. Or could Tyson turn out to be his easiest fight? To make sense of this unusual matchup, let's first remember what made a young Mike Tyson so special. Then we'll analyze his last fight against Roy Jones Jr. and compare that performance to Jake Paul's most recent two fights. After that, we'll have a clearer idea of who will come out on top in this showdown. Prime Mike Tyson. Mike is known for his brutal combinations, body head work. It's impossible to imitate so many combinations with pad work. So his coach, Cass D'Amato, created a boxing bag called the Willie Machine. The point of it was to number the hits and perform the combinations just by listening to the numbers. In total, there were 8 punches in Cass's school, and each of them had its own number. 1 left hook, 2 right hook or straight, 3 uppercut with the left hand, 4 uppercut with the right hand, 5 hook to the body with the left hand, 6 hook to the body with the right hand, 7 jab, 8 jab to the body. The coach called a certain set of numbers, for example 5, 3, 2, and Mike immediately performed the combination first on the bag and then on his opponents. But to perform such complex and long combinations, you need good footwork. Shifting to the side in the performance of the Iron Mike has become a real art. His arsenal had a huge number of ways to reduce the distance pendulum, where he relied more on his legs than the rotation of the body. Dives where the legs were also used in the first place. Explosions with the change of stance. Pivots. Sidesteps, and many other tools in Tyson's footwork. Thanks to this, he could play hide and seek with opponents who did not see him, but could feel the weight of his punches, after which Mike again hid behind them, cutting the corner. Despite the huge number of movements, cutting corners, and head work, the essence of Tyson's style was the most severe pressure, not a step back. To implement such a capacious energy-consuming style in terms of technique, you need strong focus and zero doubts, because at such speeds, the split seconds determine the outcome of the fight. Cass D'Amato understood this, so he did everything to make Mike never doubt himself, and he used fear of his opponent as fuel for training, after which fear turned into confidence when he went out to the ring, which made the opponent feel fear. But even a seemingly perfect machine like Mike Tyson has flaws. His PR team skillfully conceals these to this day, leading many to believe that Tyson's losses were solely due to losing discipline and motivation. However, this isn't entirely true. Cass D'Amato wasn't just any trainer, he coached 2 of the youngest heavyweight champions, both of whom had a similar fighting style. And therein lies the problem. The peekaboo style is incredibly energy intensive and works well as long as the opponent is frightened and shocked. But once the opponent isn't afraid and the fighter using the style loses some energy, the whole style begins to fall apart. This is why Mike Tyson lost in the same way every time. Everyone who defeated him wasn't scared of him, which allowed them to catch their breath during the fight and focus on constantly working the jab. This kept Tyson at a distance, and when Mike got angry and tried to close the distance to his preferred fighting range, he would get caught in a clinch where his arms would get worn out and he'd grow frustrated. This is how he lost to Douglas Lewis, and it's why he headbutted Holyfield and then bit his ear off. He just couldn't find a solution to constant clinches and long jabs. You're likely to quote Tyson's famous line in the comments, "Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth." But the problem is that plan worked every time, and it even worked many years later against Roy Jones. Tyson versus Jones. Tyson starts the fight very actively, making it seem like vintage Mike is back. However, there's a moment after his double jab that hints something isn't quite right. Mike doesn't continue pressing forward like he used to. Instead, he pauses and just follows Roy around. But after this moment, Tyson redeems himself by taking the center of the ring and pressing Roy against the ropes, cutting off his movement. Yet, as soon as Mike steps past the center, he makes the same mistake again. He freezes and lets Roy go. To Tyson's credit, he quickly finds his timing despite years out of the ring. Roy throws a jab, Mike slips inside it and counters in his classic style. Another counter, but this time Mike slips to the outside and lands a body hook. But then he forgets to control the center, chases after Jones, and ends up freezing again, allowing Roy to escape. This shows the main problem with Mike Tyson's style that has plagued him throughout his career, the clinch. He always struggled to avoid clinches, worked poorly within them, and couldn't escape them effectively due to his height. It was his problems with clinching that cost him every fight he lost. Jones changes tactics, working quick jabs and then retreating from Tyson's range. This strategy works well because, due to his age, Mike couldn't counter quickly enough, and when he tried to step out of the center of the ring, he got caught in Roy's clinch. Just when it seemed like Roy had found an answer to Mike's style, Tyson throws a feint in the second round, making Jones move to his right, and Mike catches him with a hook. Instead of chasing Roy as he did in the first round, Mike made Jones run straight into his hook. But again, it ended in a clinch. It's worth noting that for the past 10 years or more, this has been Roy Jones's fighting style. Having lost speed and reflexes, he learned to land a punch and then immediately tie up his opponent in a clinch. Or, when the opponent finished a combination, he would catch them in a clinch right away. Tyson slips forward, but since he stayed in place, Roy Jones got confused. Mike easily gave up the hand Roy was controlling him with and attacked with his free hand. Essentially, the main problem with this version of Tyson is his inability to compensate for the lack of speed with ring control and distance management. Because when he moves correctly at the right distance, Jones poses no threat to him. For example, in this segment of the fight, Tyson feints Jones, making him prepare to counter with a jab. But Mike anticipates this and throws his jab while lunging forward, then uses proper footwork to corner Roy and unloads combinations. For the perfect attack, he needed to step out of the fighting range. But because he froze, Roy safely entered the clinch. 8-0-52. Mike repeats the same setup, but this time, when it comes to the clinch, he takes the overhooks first and controls Jones's hands. In summary, we can only admire Tyson's physical abilities at his age, but his flaw in clinch work can still be exploited. If a lighter and more battered Roy Jones could tie him up in a clinch, then a younger and stronger Jake Paul certainly can. So, let's take a look at Jake Paul's recent fights. Jake Paul fights. In the fight against Andre August, Jake started with his signature move, the shuffle, which he's been using for a couple of years, but he still doesn't grasp its essence. The rhythm of his feet doesn't align with the rhythm of his hands to generate powerful strikes. It's more like jumps to relieve stress, but he does one thing right. He extends his front hand to control the distance. Progress didn't stop there. Paul demonstrated improvement in jabs and footwork, a jab followed by lateral movement. Then, Paul synchronized footwork with his punches. Paul initiated attacks, feinting a jab to the head, causing the opponent to raise his hands. He followed it with a jab to the body. Andre, from nerves, decided to duck very low, practically to Jake's knees. After this moment, August gradually attempted to apply pressure. Paul responded with a feint jab to the head followed by a hook, but he missed. Andre continued pressing but was too passive. Realizing this himself, he tried a jab to the body. Jake immediately countered with a jab to the head. Andre attempted to respond with his jab, but Paul's punch was too strong, making the counter ineffective. Jake intensified his attacks, using a double jab for pressure and adding a hook to the body. August responded by trying to dive under the punches. Apparently anticipating this, Paul entered a clinch, applying his weight on the opponent. However, for some reason, Andre didn't pay attention to it, reacting to Jake's feints with dives. The logic is clear. He tries to use head movement to close the distance and counter Jake's movements. However, he does it too predictably. It's immediately apparent he'll dive and leap with a strike, his response to everything Jake does. Paul seemingly prepares an attack, a hook to the head. He constantly uses a jab to the head and a hook to the body to suddenly deliver a hook to the head. Hence, August, fearing a head strike, constantly ducks to evade the impending head blow, the same attack. And August reacts the same as before, but emphasizes his block more on the body. Andre attempts some pressure with a jab, but the strike is weak and there's no shift or closing in after the hit. For this, Paul quickly punished him with a powerful double jab. August became more active, using head and body movement to make it harder to hit him. This quickly paid off. The hook that Paul had prepared for so long missed the opponent, but Jake adapted very quickly. It's perhaps the best and smartest moment in his career. Paul throws a double jab, after which a hook to the body or head is expected. Instead, he throws an uppercut, and Andre gladly sits down, falling into a deep knockout. The next fight against someone's uncle took place in Puerto Rico, which is why Jake decided to play to the local audience by dressing up as a rooster. After all, in Puerto Rican culture, roosters hold a special significance. They symbolize struggle, strength, and resilience. In Puerto Rican culture, roosters are often associated with traditional combat games known as cockfights. Coco. Coco is the fighting of roosters, which is a popular pastime on the island. These fights have been taking place in Puerto Rico for many generations. Roosters are used as a symbol of strength, courage, and determination. However, I am from Ukraine, and I did not know what a rooster means in Puerto Rican culture, so I had to read a lot about their culture. After all, in Ukrainian culture, the nickname rooster usually carries a negative connotation and refers to a person who appears weak, characterless, or cowardly. Such a nickname can be used in an offensive manner. It is also necessary to understand that in all the countries of the former USSR, rooster is a slang term that is usually used to refer to a prisoner who cooperates with the authorities or, in an intimate form, pleases other prisoners. Therefore, it was strange for me to see this costume, but after reading about the cultural specifics, I calmed down and focused on the fight. Jake immediately takes the center of the ring and works with a jab, but not just throwing a jab. In fact, he baits his opponent to counterattack or move forward to catch him with a hook while stepping back. After that, Jake repeated the same setup with a jab, but got confused when his opponent closed in. He didn't throw the hook and seemed to want to throw a rear uppercut, as he did in the fight with August. After a couple of jabs, we see classic Paul. A jab to the head, the opponent, expecting another jab, covers up and receives a hook to the body. Jake noticed that the opponent didn't like the body shot, so he decided to focus his attention on the body. Jabs, hooks. Everything was aimed at the opponent's body. Getting the opponent accustomed to the fact that the punches would only go to the body, Paul lands a hook to the head after a jab. This scares the opponent, causing him to run around the ring with his guard up, trying to avoid everything. But Jake remained composed and cool-headed. He didn't rush to finish his opponent, but confidently peppered him with combinations, forcing the referee to stop the fight. However, it was the next fight that revealed Jake Paul's genius plan for preparing to face Mike Tyson. Throughout these matches, Paul was gaining weight and learning how to use it, while also training a game plan for the fight with Mike. He specifically fought Mike Perry according to the plan for Tyson. Mike is known as a very tough and uncompromising fighter who always pushes forward and physically breaks his opponents. That's why he's undefeated in bare-knuckle fights. But Jake used his game plan on him, the same plan he will surely use against Mike Tyson. To be more precise, he moved a lot as the second number, used a stiff jab, clinched when Mike got close, and landed combinations on the way out of the clinch. From the very beginning of the fight, we saw that Jake was strictly following the game plan. He gave up the center of the ring and began to move sideways, attacking with a heavy jab. After that, he used all his signature attacks, a double jab followed by a body hook, a check hook, and a hook while shifting. And when Perry was frustrated, Paul easily caught him in a clinch, where he used his size to pressure and wear him down. Fighting against such a heavy opponent who is focused on wearing you down is extremely difficult. As a result, Mike was already tired by the middle of the fight, which helped Jake win by knockout. After this fight, it became clear how seriously Paul is taking the fight with Tyson. He used a multi-layered preparation to gain weight, learn how to use it in a fight, and also to train his game plan on a similar opponent. The fight! Based on everything mentioned above, it's clear that this fight will be extremely challenging for Mike Tyson, especially considering his health issues, which led to the fight being postponed. Of course, like many others, I want to see the legend retire on a high note. However, due to Jake's size and youth, we're likely to see a fight where Tyson's energy will last only 2 to 3 rounds. After that, Jake will simply use powerful jabs to make his nose bleed and wear him out in the clinch. Then, he'll likely knock Mike out. This is an objective analysis of the fight. However, Tyson is one of those people who can do the unthinkable. Do you think Mike Tyson can shock the world and defeat Jake Paul?
Young Jake, stepping in the ring, eyes on the prize, the YouTube star, no fighter on the rise. Facing legends, ain't backing down, but this time it's Tyson, the king of the crown. I am Mike, the best of them all, but Jake's got a plan, he's ready to brawl. Wait up, game tight, been training for this, to be take on a legend, will really miss. Will the old lion roll, or will the new king rise? Jake Paul in the ring with fire in his eyes. Mike Tyson's legacy, standing tall and proud. But the future's calling, will the young one make it loud? Bring them out, one by one, but Tyson, the beast, his Jake was young. Power in his punches, wisdom in his mind, but Jake's been killing, no still left behind. Step by step, he's building his path, but Tyson's still got that thunderous wrath. You versus experience, speed versus might, when they clash in the ring, who's winning the fight? Will the old lion roll, or will the new king rise? Jake Paul in the ring with fire in his eyes. Mike Tyson's legacy, standing tall and proud. But the future's calling, will the young one make it loud? Jake's been knocking him out one by one, but Tyson's been a beast since Jake was young. Power in his punches, wisdom in his mind, but Jake's been plotting, no still left behind. Step by step, he's been building his path, but Tyson's still got that thunderous wrath. You versus experience, speed versus might, when they clash in the ring, who's winning the fight? Will the old lion roll, or will the new king rise? Jake Paul in the ring with fire in his eyes. Mike Tyson's legacy, standing tall and proud. But the future's calling, will the young one make it loud? Old rings, tension fills the air. Two worlds collide, but only one can bear the pressure. of the heat, the weight of the game. Jake rise up and will Mike reclaim his name. The fight's just begun, but the question remains, can Jake Paul conquer, was it all in vain? Old Mike, young Jake, who's walking out of the light in the heart of the battle, only one will thrive. So place your best, the future's on the line. Jake Paul and Mike, who'll stand the test of time.